1 year ago, Spotify modernized their royalty system, which caused quite a bit of controversy in the online creator community. Yes, every man and their dog were talking about these changes. There were three major changes. And what I wanted to talk about in this week's podcast is, did these changes make much of a difference? Has the world of online streaming and music sharing been impacted by these, or was it a bit of a storm in a teacup? Hello, my name is Pete Johns. This is the Studio Live Today podcast. My goal around here is to help you create, record, and release your best music. And when I was chatting about this a year ago, when these changes were not even released, they were just speculated and rumored. Yeah, I was feeling a little bit down because whilst I agreed with some of the changes, one in particular kind of grinded my gears, and we'll be revisiting that and everything that happened. I'm pointing to an article here for those on the audio version, and we're going to be working through this because I want to make sure that this is 100% factual. So, what I'm looking at here is an article from the 21st of November, 2023, yes, a year ago, about the new policies that Spotify was at that time about to launch. And they said, we're introducing new policies to better support those most dependent on streaming revenues as part of their livelihood. And as of the 1st of April 2024, these policies are now live. And they have been. And I've been impacted by these because the short version of this is the one that seemed to get on a lot of people's radar was the fact that you now need to get 1,000 streams per song per year to get paid any royalties from Spotify. And what does that mean practically for folks like me that maybe get a few hundred screams, Freudian slip, on all of our songs? Well, it means that I no longer get paid by Spotify. So what difference has that made to me? How has that impacted the overall music sharing community? Have the Spotify boycotts continued and are they working? We're going to talk about all of that here in this week's podcast. If you'd like to, if you're on the video version, please leave a thumbs up, leave your comments, whether you're here watching the live premiere or on the replay. Comments can go in the live chat or the comments down below. If you're listening on the audio version, come on over to the YouTube channel. We do this on the channel and you get to see me and see the information on the screen as we go through here. So let's get started, shall we? As Spotify payouts to the music industry continue to grow over $40 billion and counting, we want to make sure that the money is going to the people our platform is designed to enable, emerging and professional artists. Pete's editorialization, read between the lines, not you, Johns. Not people who are just dabbling in this who, want to sign up to DistroKid or CD Baby or TuneCore and release an album and maybe get 500 streams, which I think is still pretty good, and get paid maybe 10 or 20 bucks. Yeah, no. And for reasons that we'll talk about in a moment. However, back to Spotify. However, as the royalty pool and catalog on Spotify have surged, three particular drains on the royalty pool have now reached a tipping point. So we're working in close collaboration with industry partners, the labels, but they say artist distributors, independent labels, major labels, label distributors, and artists and their teams to produce new policies to 1, further deter artificial streaming, 2, better distribute small payments that aren't reaching artists, and 3, rein in those attempting to game the system with noise. We'll talk about what noise is in a moment. While each of these issues only impacts a small percentage of the total streams, addressing them now means that we can drive approximately an additional $1 billion. Sorry, you got to do the finger thing, don't you? $1 billion in revenue towards emerging and professional artists over the next 5 years. So that's an important part. This is, again, Pete's editorialization here. Over $40 billion and counting is how much that they're putting into the industry. This was $1 billion. So 39 billion is not in dispute, and they didn't need to make changes about it. Now, I'm no expert, especially in this sort of side of business, but the 80-20 rule says to me that shouldn't you be focusing a lot more of your attention on the 80%? Like, is this $1 billion? I know $1 billion is a lot of money, but as a percentage of $40 billion, it's 2.5%. This is three major changes that created quite some turmoil, and a lot of people no longer loving the Spotify. Was it worth it? We'll talk about it. I'll give you my opinion. Let me know your opinion, though. I want your views on this. Let's talk artificial streaming. The issue. Spotify invests heavily in detecting, preventing, and removing the royalty impact of artificial streaming. Still, bad actors continue to attempt to steal money from the royalty pool that should be delivered to honest, hardworking artists. Like me? No. Sorry, not like you, Johns. Like others. Other harder working artists. how we're addressing it. So, changes to artificial streaming as a new deterrent beginning early next year. It has begun. We'll start charging labels and distributors per track where flagrant artificial streaming is detected on their content. This new deterrent follows improved artificial streaming detection technology we rolled out earlier this year, as well as the establishment of the newly formed Music Frights Fraud Alliance. Not awkwardly named at all. So, what do I think of this? I agree with this. I don't like fraudsters. I think people that try to game a system, I mean, usually they're very smart people, but they probably need to use their talents and their intelligence for good as opposed to evil. I think a lot of the crypto bros are really smart because they are able to manipulate people into falling for their scams. And I think the same thing is happening here. People that are able to manipulate the streaming and get fake streams are actually causing problems. And I'm glad that Spotify were cracking down on this. But let's see. That's the why. Let's talk about. Sorry, that was the that was the what. Let's talk about the why. So Spotify is able to fight artificial streaming once it occurs on our platform, but the industry would be better off if bad actors were disincentivized from uploading to Spotify and other streaming services in the first place. We believe this will meaningfully deter labels and distributors from continuing to distribute the music of known bad actors that attempt to divert money from honest, hardworking artists. These changes will support our continued effort to keep the industry and platform free of artificial activity. We'll go on to talk about the next one, which is the payments lost in the system. Like our mate Lawrence, Lost in the Pond. Anyone watch that channel? Wonderful channel, Lost in the Pond. Go check it out. Not relevant or related. I don't think he's a musician. So what do I think of this? Yeah, again, I get it and I like it. And the disincentivization, so I don't know because they haven't revealed, unless they have, and I've missed it. If you've got more information on this, again, the comment section, drop your links and drop your information down there. But they don't really come forward and say, "Oh, we have fired this label, we have banned this distributor, we have done this." Have we seen less of this? Now, I'll give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. I must admit, I have had less in my inbox, less in my Instagram inbox, less notes and comments on things like SoundCloud and slaps.com, less YouTube comments saying, "Yo, brah, I'm going to get you 1,000 streams. I'm going to get you 1,000 follows. I'm going to get you 10,000 listens." So maybe this is actually having an impact. And maybe some of that part of the $1 billion worth of revenue is now no longer going to scammers. The problem that we have with this still is that people are actually falling for these scams still. Or here's the bad part of this, because they're using all this detection, what if someone has it in for you? What if someone wants to use some of these artificial streaming tools to actually artificially stream your music, to make it look like you're doing the wrong thing, and then you get banned and then you get fined? We have actually started seeing this to the point where I got an email or a notification from Spotify the other day saying, if you believe that you are being the victim of a stream attack, then please use this process to notify us. So it is now happening that because this is a serious thing, it has in some ways been weaponized against people doing the right thing so that people can make it look like they're doing the wrong thing. Hey, I wouldn't want to be a rapper having a beef right now with another rapper. I'm just saying. That I wouldn't want someone to be using these tools that are meant for the prevention. It kind of reminds me, I'm going to jump on my soapbox for a minute. It kind of reminds me of here in Australia. We have this big thing at the moment that they're going to ban social media for people under the age of 16. On its surface, great. But what is actually the impact going to be? How is it actually going to work? And how are we going to make sure it doesn't actually impact innocent people doing the right thing? This is my problem. This is the concern I have with something like this, is that it takes a lot of policing. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't try it, but it does take a lot of work. So I'll give this a C in terms of success. Yes, it probably has deterred a bunch of people from doing a bunch of fake streaming, and I do see slight reduction in those scammy messages that I get about getting free streams. Let's talk about the one that I know has grinded my gears, has boiled my PP, and has done the same for others. So let's talk about payments lost in the system. Today, Spotify hosts well over 100 million tracks. Tens of millions of them have streamed between 1 and 1,000 times over the past year. And on average, those tracks generated 3 cents per month. Because labels and distributors require a minimum amount to withdraw, usually $2 to $50, and banks charge a fee for the transaction, usually $1 to $20 per withdrawal, this money often doesn't reach the uploaders, and these small payments are often forgotten about. This is the statement that annoyed me more than any other statement. This is saying that small payments are too much of a hassle. We live in 2024. We live in the world of the microtransaction. It's easier than ever through PayPal and through bank transfers to transfer small amounts of money around. Are they saying that because someone might have $3 in an account that they don't withdraw, that's a bad thing? Don't they just keep that anyway? Doesn't the platform, the distributor, or the retailer actually keep that then? If it doesn't go to the artist, is this really the problem? Is this the flag? This is where they're going to hoist themselves on? I think that this is absolute BS. And this is what actually, I cared about this more than the fact that they would. If they just said, we ain't going to pay you because we're going to give you money to other artists that are getting more streams, I would have said, kind of sucks, but fair call. The fact that they're blaming it on the inability to pay. And here's the problem. They're talking about 3 cents per month. They're talking about $2 to $50 per withdrawal. Yeah, but for artists like myself that have an album, a bunch of EPs, and maybe 30 plus singles, every year, it's not like every one of those is creating a whole bunch of money, but I was making on average $150, $200 a year, which is not yet $2 to $50. And I was paying $1 to $20 per withdrawal. Yeah, I was paying like a 1% on PayPal to withdraw it. So my $150 that I have to pay $1.50 to withdraw once a year through PayPal, they've said to me, it is not worth us supporting you doing that anymore. And I don't usually get that worked up about things, but that is the one thing that I say I call shenanigans on that. Yes, I use the S word. But in aggregate, these small disregarded payments, again, who's disregarding, have added up to $40 million per year, which could be instead increase the payments to artists who are the most dependent on streaming revenue. How we're addressing it. Starting early 2024, it has started. Tracks must reach at least 1,000 streams in the previous 12 months in order to generate recorded royalties. Spotify will not make any additional money under this model. There is no change to the size of the music royalty pool being paid out to rights holders on Spotify. We will simply use the tens of millions of dollars annually to increase the payments on all eligible tracks rather than spreading it out in 3-cent payments. Using the 3-cent thing again, very, very irritating. Why? It's more impactful for these tens of millions of dollars per year to increase payments to those most dependent on streaming revenue, rather than being spread out in tiny payments that typically don't even reach an artist. Yeah, that's an assumption, as they do not surpass distributors' minimal payment thresholds. 99.5% of all streams are of tracks that have at least 1,000 annual streams, and each of these tracks will earn more under this policy. We also believe the policy will eliminate one strategy used to attempt to game the system or hide artificial streaming, as uploaders will no longer be able to generate pennies from an extremely high volume of tracks. For more details, check out the Help Center. Don't bother. We'll talk about noise in a moment, but I need to calm myself with a small sip. Before we move on to noise, how about I play devil's advocate? Because yeah, I got a little angry there. And a little bit of that was cartoon level hate because, yeah, to be honest, there is no one that this is going to impact. There's no one that no longer can feed their family, can keep the lights on because of this change from Spotify. So, yeah, was I manufacturing a little level of cartoon level anxiousness there over that? Possibly. But what I don't like is when a company, instead of just saying we've made this as a business decision because, hey, it's too hard. We got accounting teams that just work their asses off trying to work this stuff out, and it was too hard to manage those small payments. So putting this in will actually reduce the cost that we have to actually provide the service to our end users and our customers. That's a very succinct and correct way of explaining this change. What I don't like is when the blame is passed. So I get this change. I actually genuinely do. And I really do hope, I haven't spoken to any who are benefiting from this, but I really do hope that those artists who rely on streaming royalties more than me, that their streaming royalties are 50% or 70% of their actual income as opposed to me, where it's 1 or 2%. I really do hope that they're doing better. I genuinely think that we need to look after performing artists and those upcoming and emerging talents a lot better. So, yeah, I'm gonna take the other side as well. I'm sitting on the fence because I always do. I just wish I want transparency. I don't really care about the outcomes in a lot of this stuff. I would just love it if a company like Spotify would come out and actually tell us really why and stop talking about the 3 cents and stop talking about this information. I don't think they've even researched this. They haven't put any numbers behind how many people, how much of that money is actually unclaimed. Because I don't know about you, I use DistroKid, and every month I go in there and check, and if I'm over the threshold, I'll withdraw. It'll be 20, 30, 50, $100 because I'm distributing to a bunch of different platforms. And I think the vast majority of people using distributors are doing the same thing. Now, what they're saying there about some people going in and putting out 1,000 tracks and just hoping to make 50 cents per track over 1,000 tracks, and the quality is being diminished because of that. Well, guess what? That strategy is being used by the big artists too. Have you seen how many remixes and refeatured and different artists? And yeah, that one song will have 20 versions. So yeah, you got to pick your battles here. Don't allow your Drakes to have 20 versions of their singles so that they can nickel and dime and they can get as many streams as possible. And then say that Pete Johns can't have a few remixes of his songs because he might accidentally get 1,000 streams, except now I'd have to get them per song. So anyway, we will move on from there. Gaming the system with noise. In the streaming era, functional genres are popular, like white noise, whale sounds, static, and so on. Listeners often stream these functional genres for hours at a time in the background, and this is sometimes exploited by bad actors who cut their tracks artificially short. Whenever I hear bad actors, I just think of like poor Keanu Reeves, like in that Shakespeare movie he was in, or where he's like, I learned ninjutsu. I don't know why. I actually really like Keanu Reeves, but every time I hear bad actor, it makes me think of actors in movies who cut their tracks artificially short with no artistic merit in order to maximize royalty bearing streams. For example, a typical song is a few minutes long. Some bad actors are shortening whale soundtracks to 30 seconds and stacking them consecutively in a playlist without listeners noticing. So they earn outsized payments. Beyond track length, noise recordings are valued in the same way as music recordings. The massive growth of the royalty pool has created a revenue opportunity for noise uploaders well beyond their contribution to listeners. I think that Spotify need to hire new copywriters because every time I read something, I get it, but it offends me. And I thought the idea of a media and a public relations team was to write things. If you're going to sugarcoat things and if you're going to play this sort of card, shouldn't you write it? I think they might need those new Apple Intelligence writing tools to make it sound less confronting. Because at the moment, I don't think I'm a bad actor, but I'm kind of feeling like I am. I'm like, maybe I am doing the wrong thing. Maybe I'm part of the problem. Sorry, Spotify. I'm going to write a letter to Daniel and say, I'm sorry, I think I did the wrong thing. Okay, how we're addressing it. New policies for noise recording. Starting next year, now, we'll increase the maximum track length of functional noise recordings to 2 minutes in order to be eligible to generate royalties. Functional genres will include white noise, nature sounds, machine noises, sound effects, non-smoke and ASMR, and silence recordings. I still don't know what silence recordings are, but I'm absolutely intrigued and fascinated. Is it just silence? Is it really just silence? Has someone released an album called The Sounds of Silence, but it's not the Simon and Garfunkel version? Oh, mate. I'm obviously out of the loop on this one. Additionally, over the coming months, we'll work with licensors to value noise streams at a fraction of the value of music streams. Ha ha! Take that, noise people. Your whale sounds are not the same value. Why? By setting a minimum track length, these tracks will make a fraction of what they were previously earning because 2 minutes of listening to noise recordings would generate one royalty-bearing stream, not four, freeing up that extra money to go back into the royalty pool for honest, hardworking artists. So we'll get back to that. It also creates a more fair playing field for artists in these functional genres by eliminating the perverse incentive to cut tracks artificially short with no artistic merit at the expense of listener experience. These policies will right-size the revenue opportunity for noise uploaders. Currently, the opportunity is so large that uploaders flood streaming services with undifferentiated noise recordings, hoping to attract enough search traffic to generate royalties. Okay, let's talk through this for a moment. Yes, I get it. When you have a system, when you put a system in place and you have rules and regulations around that system, guess what people will do? They will game the system. If a system is created that allows for something to happen, people are going to make that something happen. And I get it, and I support the fact that Spotify want to change that now. Kudos. Agreed. But these people were just playing by the rules. You said 30 seconds per stream. Now, if I'm going to put myself in the position of one of these folks that's creating these sounds. If I said to you, if I walked up to you in the street and said, would you like $400 or $100? You just do the same thing, except you just have to cut things. So instead of working 1 hour, you work 4 15-minute shifts, and I'm going to pay you $400 instead of $100. That's a really good hourly rate, by the way. $400 an hour? Wow. Well, yeah, the average person, I don't know if there's a single human being that would say no. It's there for a reason. It's a bit like tax incentives. If there's a tax incentive available, are people going to not utilize it, or are people going to utilize it to 100, and in the case of bad actors, 110%? But here's the thing. None of these people have done anything outside of the rules and regulations set out by the streaming platforms. So how does I feel bad for the people, and I get it. You don't want this. There's people that have released 100 meditation songs, and it's 131-second songs. That's not 100 songs. I get it. The artistic integrity is not there. And if there's one thing I can say about Spotify is that they value artistic integrity. It's not coming off great, is it? But I just think that, again, positioning this in a different way, how would I have, okay, let's flip it around, because I'm trying to be fair and balanced here. I know I'm getting off again on my cartoon level 8, but let's be fair and balanced. I'm Spotify, and I'm seeing wonderful artists producing a 10-track album that's 50 minutes long and only getting paid like 10 chunks of royalty. And then Whale Sounds guy is re-releasing the same Whale Sound album 7 times with 100 tracks on it, and he's getting paid 700 units for less effort than the 10 units of the artist. Do I think that's fair? No. If I was Spotify, would I change that? Yes. However, how do you go about it? You say, we had these things. This is the thing, ownership, accountability. I'm not seeing it here. We had these rules in place, and we thought that this was a good way to ensure that at least, if you stream 31 seconds of a song, that was deemed to qualify. We have realized that this is an inequitable and unfair way, because musicians are not getting paid a fair amount of that royalty pool, and an unfair amount of that is going to these noise streaming artists. We would like to correct that, and therefore we are making this change. We are correcting the mistake, the problem that we had with our system. I haven't seen in any of these things that there's been any accountability or responsibility taken. And that's my biggest problem with this. Here's the thing. I still release to Spotify. I still respect people's right and decision to choose to use Spotify to stream music. I don't make any money from Spotify. I don't really have any bad feelings towards the Spotify platform. I think they do the best job when it comes to things like playlisting, when it comes to things like end user community engagement. My daughter loves Spotify, and she loves it because her friends use it and they can share playlists, and it's a community. So I think that they do good things. I know this is coming off very anti, but I really, really wish that they would just position things in a little more friendly way. Be more artist friendly, be more consumer and customer friendly, because you can do the same things and be transparent and take accountability and ownership, or you can just keep saying words like bad actors and keep throwing people under the bus. And that's kind of my overall view on all of this stuff. We will continue to keep you updated as we roll out these initiatives in the new year. For more information on how Spotify royalties work, visit Loud and Clear. And grab yourself a coffee and read the annual Music Economics Report. I invite you to read their annual Music Economics Report. So that is pretty much what I got to say about this. These 3 changes, have they destroyed everything? Are they the worst thing ever? No, not really. Again, I just think that they could have been positioned in a very different way and put in a more positive light. All of these things, what these should be is aspirational. Instead of me feeling angry and a little bit jaded and a bit guilty like I'm the bad guy, I should be sitting here going, yeah, fair play, Spotify, you're right. 1,000 streams is actually reasonable. You know what I should do? In the new year, I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start promoting. I'm going to use DistroKid and I'm going to set future release dates for my songs. I'm going to get them on playlists and I'm going to do more promotion. That's the sort of thing that this should be driving. Instead, it's kind of making me upset. And again, I know Spotify don't care about the feelings of one person, but I just think it's a bigger story. It sets a different picture and a different standard for how people should be treated. And maybe again, am I going to get comments down here saying you're a snowflake, you're woke, all those sort of things? Probably, but I really don't care. I just think that there's too much. There's too much. Just I'll finish with this. I like to play a video game called NHL 25. I'm a big hockey guy. You can probably tell I'm wearing a Las Vegas Golden Knights hat right now. So I'm in this gaming community, and one of the creators I like that shares videos on YouTube about the game said something in a video today where they said, yes, I know that there's negative people on the internet, but that's just the internet, isn't it? Like, that's just how things work on the internet. And I don't think we need to accept that. In fact, I would challenge us to try and reframe that. And I think that the more people that just accept that that's just the way it is and don't question how things are positioned and how transparent companies are and how nice and genuinely caring people and companies are on the internet, I think if we just expect the least, we're going to get even worse. Whereas if we set our expectations higher and we say, you know what, things can be better. I think we can do better than this. I think that next time we need to have major changes like this in the music industry, I think they can be positioned a little better. What do you think? I've had my say. I'll link to the article if you want to read all the information in more detail, but we've pretty much read through it all here on the podcast. But I do invite your opinions. And again, I don't want it to become a complaint, a plum party, poor little old me. I get it. I'm with you. At the same time, vote with your feet. There's other platforms out there. There's other ways that you can listen to music. And if you don't want to release to Spotify, you're welcome to. Like I said, I still do because I still think it's actually a really good music discovery platform. I know. It sounds weird after all the things that I've said, but I like to be as fair and balanced as possible. Thank you for being here. If you're here on the video version, a thumbs up would be appreciated. Again, you can drop your comments here. If you're on the audio version, please give a rating or a review on your podcatcher of choice. Hey, we're probably on Spotify podcasts. I don't actually know. I haven't checked. Although, yes, we are, because I use the Spotify podcast producer app to release this podcast. So there you go. We would be on Spotify podcasts as well. So please feel free to leave a rating or a review on your podcatcher of choice. And until next time, folks, be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Keep creating. I'll see you next time.